Veltan pressed his crystal fingers against the holographic controls, his blue form flickering with frustration. The mapping display showed every species in the galaxy except one. Red lines marked Crimson Supremacy territory. Golden zones belonged to the Obsidian Empire. Silver sectors were controlled by the Metallic Dominion. But where humans lived there were only question marks. This is impossible, Veltan muttered to himself. He had been the Galactic Mapping Consortium's best cartographer for over 50 cycles. He could map the territory of any species in 3 days. The humans had taken him 3 months and he was no closer to finishing. The door to his office slid open with a soft chime. Ambassador Kim Jun walked in, followed by a young human woman in a blue uniform. The woman carried a data pad and had the look of someone who dealt with paperwork all day. "Good morning, Cartographer Veltan," Kim said with that strange human smile. "I brought Lieutenant Park Nari to help explain our territorial arrangements." Veltan's crystal body turned a deeper shade of blue. "Ambassador Kim, I have received 17 different maps from your people. Each one shows different borders. Some show the same colonies belonging to multiple governments. Others show territories that apparently belong to nobody at all." Nari stepped forward and placed her data pad on Veltan's desk. "Perhaps we can help clear this up. What specifically is confusing you?" Veltan gestured to the holographic display. "Last week you submitted a map showing Luna Colony under the control of something called the Korean Space Authority. Yesterday I received another map from your people showing the same colony governed by the Earth-Luna Cooperative Council. Today this data pad lists it as a joint territory of the Seoul Administrative Zone and the Geneva Space Collective." "That's correct," Nari said cheerfully. "All of them?" Veltan asked. "Yes." Veltan's form flickered rapidly between blue and red. "That makes no sense. A territory cannot belong to 4 different governments." Kim and Nari exchanged glances. "Why not?" Kim asked. The question hit Veltan like a physical blow. In all his cycles of mapping, no one had ever asked him why territories needed single owners. It was simply how things worked. Because Veltan struggled to find words. Because that is how territories function. The Crimson Supremacy controls their space. The Crystal Hegemony controls our space. Each species has their own area. Clear lines. Simple. But why? Nari asked. What if multiple groups could work together to govern the same place? Veltan looked at his mapping display. Every other species had neat, clear borders. The Obsidian Empire's golden territory never touched the Crystal Hegemony's blue zones except at carefully negotiated border stations. The Metallic Dominion's silver space was surrounded by buffer zones to prevent conflicts. "It prevents wars," Veltan said finally. "Clear borders mean everyone knows what belongs to whom. No confusion. No fighting." "Does it work?" Kim asked. Veltan paused. The Crimson Supremacy and the Obsidian Empire had been fighting border wars for 200 cycles. The Crystal Hegemony had 3 ongoing territorial disputes. The Metallic Dominion had built weapons platforms at every border crossing. "It provides structure," Veltan said weakly. Nari activated her data pad. The holographic display showed a human colony called New Geneva Station. This station is governed by the Korean Maritime Authority for shipping regulations, the Swiss Orbital Collective for civilian services, and the Kepler Colonial Assembly for agricultural distribution. Each group handles what they do best. "But who has final authority?" Veltan asked. "For what?" "For everything. For making decisions. For defense. For law enforcement. The Korean Maritime Authority handles maritime law. The Swiss Orbital Collective manages civilian disputes. The Kepler Colonial Assembly deals with agricultural regulations. The Terra Kepler Defense Cooperative provides security. The Pan-Human Arbitration Council resolves conflicts between authorities." Veltan felt his crystal matrix heating up with confusion. "So 5 different groups govern one station?" 7 actually, Kim corrected. "We also have the New Geneva Cultural Exchange Board and the Interspecies Research Initiative." "This is chaos," Veltan declared. "Is it?" Nari asked. She tapped her data pad again. New statistics appeared on the holographic display. New Geneva Station has the highest efficiency ratings, lowest crime rates, and best economic growth of any station in the sector. Veltan stared at the numbers. Every other species managed their territories through single, unified governments. The humans seemed to govern through cooperation between multiple groups. And somehow it worked better. "I do not understand," Veltan admitted. "Maybe that's the point," Kim said gently. We're not trying to own territory. We're trying to live in it, work in it, share it. Nari pointed to the display showing the rest of the galaxy. Every other species draws lines and says, "This is ours, that is yours." But why should a line stop us from cooperating? Why should a border prevent us from sharing resources or knowledge? Veltan looked at his incomplete map of human space. For the first time, he wondered if the problem wasn't that humans were bad at drawing borders. Maybe they had simply moved beyond the need for them. "I still need to complete this map," Veltan said quietly. "Then mark it as undefined," Kim suggested. "Because we really don't have borders the way other species do." As the humans left his office, Veltan stared at the holographic display. 450 cycles, he had mapped territories by drawing lines between species. The humans had just suggested that maybe the lines themselves were the problem. Captain Du-hyun checked his navigation display as the transport ship New Busan approached the Kepler 442 system. His cargo hold carried Korean electronics, African minerals, and European manufactured goods. It was a routine supply run to the human colonies, but something felt different this time. "Captain," his communications officer Ensign Choi Minho called out, "I'm receiving multiple signals from New Geneva Station." "Multiple signals?" "Yes, sir. The first one is from the Korean Colonial Authority. The second is from the African Federation. The third is from something called the European Space Collective." Du-hyun frowned. "Are they all claiming authority over the station?" "It's strange, sir. They all seem to be working together." The main communication screen flickered to life. A young woman appeared, wearing a uniform Du-hyun didn't recognize. Behind her, he could see people from different Earth regions working side by side. "Transport New Busan, this is Controller Lee So-young of New Geneva Station. You are cleared for docking at Bay 7. Please note that New Geneva operates under shared governance protocols." "Shared governance?" Du-hyun asked. "The Korean Colonial Authority handles shipping logistics. The Swiss Orbital Collective manages civilian services. The Kepler Colonial Assembly oversees agricultural distribution. Each group does what they do best." Du-hyun had been flying supply runs for 12 years. Every other station in the galaxy had one government, one set of rules, one chain of command. This was something entirely new. "Understood, Control. We'll dock at Bay 7. As the New Busan approached the station, Du-hyun noticed something else unusual. 3 warships hung in space nearby, but they weren't human vessels. The largest was a metallic Dominion heavy cruiser, its silver hull bristling with weapons. "Ensign Choi, contact that Dominion ship. Ask them what they're doing here." "Already tried, sir. Commander Steel 7 says he's conducting territorial evaluation." Du-hyun docked his ship and walked through the station's corridors. The efficiency was remarkable. Korean shipping clerks processed cargo manifests while Swiss civilian coordinators handled passenger services. Agricultural inspectors from the Kepler colonies checked food shipments. Everything flowed smoothly. At the Central Command Center, Controller So-young was having a conversation with Commander Steel 7 via holographic display. The metallic being's mechanical voice sounded frustrated. "Explain your territorial boundaries," Steel 7 demanded. "We don't have territorial boundaries in the traditional sense," So-young replied calmly. "Impossible. Every space installation must have single governmental authority." "Why?" The question seemed to short-circuit Steel 7's logic processors. His metallic form flickered as he struggled to respond. Du-hyun approached So-young's station. "Controller, what exactly is shared governance?" So-young smiled. "Simple. The Korean Colonial Authority has experience with shipping and logistics, so they handle all cargo operations. The Swiss Orbital Collective specializes in civilian administration, so they manage civilian services. The Kepler Colonial Assembly knows agriculture, so they oversee food distribution. But who's in charge? Everyone. For their area of expertise." Steel 7's mechanical voice cut through their conversation. "This system violates all established protocols. One authority must have final decision-making power." "Why?" So-young asked again. "For defense. For order. For clarity of command." A new voice joined the conversation. Captain Park Ji-sung of the merchant vessel Seoul Trader had entered the command center. Her ship was loaded with trade goods from 6 different human colonies. "Commander Steel 7, Ji-sung said, our defense is handled by the Terra Kepler Defense Cooperative. Our order comes from cooperation between multiple authorities. Our clarity comes from everyone knowing their role." Steel 7 ran the scenario through his tactical computers. Do-hyun could hear the mechanical whirring as the commander tried to process this information. If I wanted to conquer this station, Steel 7 said slowly, who would I need to defeat? That's an interesting question, So-young replied. You'd need to overcome the Korean Colonial Authority's shipping defenses, the Swiss Orbital Collective's civilian emergency systems, the Kepler Colonial Assembly's agricultural security protocols, and the Terra Kepler Defense Cooperative's military assets. 4 different defense systems? 7 actually. We also have the new Geneva Emergency Response Team, the Interspecies Safety Board, and the Pan-Human Security Network. Steel 7's processors made a sound like grinding metal. This is strategically impossible to analyze. Captain Ji-sung laughed. That's the point, Commander. We're not trying to build something you can conquer. We're building something you can join. Join? The Metallic Dominion has excellent manufacturing capabilities, So-young explained. If you wanted to establish a civilian research station here under the Neutral Territory Accords, you'd be welcome. Research station? Shared governance works because everyone contributes what they do best. Your people are excellent at precision manufacturing. We could use that expertise. Do-hyun watched as Steel 7 processed this offer. The commander had arrived expecting to evaluate human territory for potential conquest. Instead, he was being invited to cooperate. I must report this to my superiors, Steel 7 said finally. Of course, So-young replied. The application forms are available in 17 different formats. As Steel 7's image disappeared, Do-hyun realized what he had witnessed. The humans weren't expanding by claiming territory. They were expanding by creating spaces where multiple groups could work together. Controller So-young, Do-hyun said, how many species have applied for cooperative status? This month? 43 applications. Last month was 37. Do-hyun looked out at the busy station corridors, where humans worked alongside beings from a dozen different species. The humans had found something the galaxy had never seen before, a way to grow stronger by sharing power instead of hoarding it. Merchant Prince QXNR stared at his profit reports with growing alarm. The golden numbers that had filled his treasury for centuries were turning red. His carefully controlled trade routes, which had made the Obsidian Empire wealthy, were losing money every day. How is this possible? He demanded of his chief analyst, Vextor. The smaller Obsidian being shifted nervously. Your profitability, the humans have created what they call free trade zones. Free trade zones? Areas where multiple species can trade without paying territorial tribute. QXNAR's golden exoskeleton darkened with rage. Impossible. The crystal hegemony would never allow free passage through their territory. Neither would the Metallic Dominion. Vextor activated a holographic display. Actually, your profitability they have. The display showed a human merchant ship called the Soul Trader carrying obsidian crystals through crystal hegemony space to reach Metallic Dominion customers. Under the old system, that cargo would have paid tribute to 3 different governments. The profit margins would have been tiny. Captain Park Ji-sung has negotiated something called a multi-species economic partnership, Vextor explained. What does that mean? Instead of paying tribute, each government receives a percentage of the increased trade volume. QIXNAR processed this information. But that would require all 3 governments to agree to make less money per shipment. Yes, but they make more money overall because trade volume has increased by 400%. On board the Soul Trader, Captain Ji-sung reviewed her trade routes with her coordinator, Officer Bae Tae-hyun. Their ship carried an unusual cargo, Kepler agricultural products bound for the Crimson Supremacy, Metallic Dominion industrial components heading to Crystal Hegemony worlds, and Obsidian luxury goods destined for human colonies. Captain, Tae-hyun reported, we've just received authorization for the new transgalactic commerce corridor. How many governments signed off on this? 12 so far. The route will cut shipping times by 40% and reduce costs by 60%. Ji-sung smiled. What's our profit margin? 8%. But our volume is up 3,000% from last year. She remembered when her father had run the same trade routes. Back then he might carry one type of cargo to one destination, paying tribute to every government along the way. His profit margins were higher, but he could only make 1 trip per month. Now Ji-sung carried mixed cargo to multiple destinations. Her margins were smaller, but she completed 5 trips per month. More importantly, every government along her route was making more money than before. Officer Bae, contact the Obsidian Empire Trade Authority. Let them know we have luxury goods available for their colonies. They might not respond, Captain. Prince QYXNR has been fighting the new trade agreements. Then contact the Obsidian Colonial Trade Association. They've been asking for direct access to human agricultural products. Back in his palace, Merchant Prince QYXNR received two conflicting reports. The first came from his traditional trade division, showing declining profits from the old tribute-based system. The second came from his colonial trade office, showing massive profits from the new human-style cooperative agreements. Your profitability, his colonial trade manager reported via hologram, our colonies want to join the Human Economic Cooperation Network. Absolutely not, QYXNR declared. But your profitability, the profits, are irrelevant. The Obsidian Empire controls trade through strength and tribute. We do not cooperate with inferior species. 3 weeks later, QYXNR faced a crisis. His outer colonies had declared themselves autonomous Obsidian trade zones, and were negotiating directly with human merchants. They were making more money in 1 month than they had made in the previous year under the old system. Your profitability, Vextor reported nervously, 40% of our colonies have joined human trade networks. Can we stop them? Not without military action. And the humans have something called trade defense agreements with their partners. QYXNR studied the holographic display showing trade flows across the galaxy. The old system had been simple. His empire controlled certain routes, charged tribute, and made steady profits. The new human system looked like chaos, with trade flowing in all directions between dozens of different authorities. But the numbers didn't lie. The chaotic human system was generating 10 times more wealth than his organized empire. What do the humans want? QYXNR asked finally. Nothing, your profitability. They don't demand tribute or territorial concessions. They just want to trade. Then what do they gain? Vextor hesitated. Everything, your profitability. When trade increases, everyone benefits. The humans sell more goods, buy more resources, and their colonies grow wealthy. Captain Jisung's ship docked at New Geneva Station, where she met with trade representatives from 17 different species. The station's central marketplace buzzed with activity as merchants exchanged goods, services, and ideas. Captain, Officer Bay reported, we have requests for new trade routes from the reformed Crimson Federation, the Federated Crystal Republics, and something called the Cooperative Obsidian Alliance. Cooperative Obsidian Alliance? Apparently, Prince QXNR's outer colonies have formed their own trade organization. They want to join the Economic Cooperation Network. Jisung looked at the bustling marketplace. A year ago, this station had been a small human outpost. Now it was the busiest trade hub in 3-star systems, with representatives from dozens of species working together. Officer Bay, prepare the integration protocols. It looks like the galaxy is finally learning that prosperity flows better through cooperation than conquest. Merchant Prince QXNR watched his empire transform around him. His choice was simple: adapt to the new cooperative economy or become irrelevant. For the first time in his long life, cooperation seemed more profitable than control. Supreme War Leader Crothax stared at the tactical display with growing frustration. His invasion fleet had been positioned at the edge of human space for 6 months, and he still couldn't figure out where to attack. Status report, he growled to his tactical officer. Officer Blackstone nervously adjusted his crimson armor. Sir, we've identified 47 different human governmental entities in the target sector. But none of them seem to have exclusive control over any territory. Crothax examined the intelligence reports spread across his command table. The humans had colonies throughout the sector, but they all seemed to belong to different groups. Some were governed by the Korean Space Collective. Others fell under the Pacific Rim Colonial Alliance or the Terra Kepler Cooperative Council. Who do we declare war against? Crothax demanded. Unknown, sir. When we sent surrender demands to the human colonies, they all referred us to different governments. Then we declare war on all of them. We tried that, sir. But most of those governments claim they're civilian authorities with no military power. On New Geneva Station, Colonial Administrator Song Haijin received the Crimson Supremacy's latest war declaration with mild amusement. She was drinking coffee and reviewing agricultural reports when the message arrived. Deun, she called to her communications officer, the Crimson Supremacy just declared war on the Korean Space Collective. Communications Officer Yang Deun looked up from her console. That's unfortunate for them. The KSC is a civilian organization. We handle colony administration, not military affairs. Should I tell them that defense decisions are made by the Terra Kepler Defense Cooperative? Which reports to the Pan-Human Security Alliance? Exactly. Though I think the actual military response would come from the Galactic Defense Network, which is technically a civilian contractor organization. Song Haijin and Yang Deun exchanged glances and started laughing. Meanwhile, war leader Crothax was receiving increasingly confusing reports from his intelligence division. Sir, Officer Blackster reported, the humans appear to have no standing military. Then how are they defending their colonies? With civilian contractors, sir. But these contractors have advanced weapons and coordinate their activities across multiple star systems. Crothax studied surveillance footage of a human colony under attack by his advanced scouts. The defense was flawless. Civilian ships appeared from nowhere, wielded military-grade weapons, and communicated using encrypted channels that his intelligence couldn't break. Who's commanding these civilian contractors? Unknown, sir. Every time we capture one, they claim to work for a different organization. Torture them for information. We tried, sir. They genuinely don't know who's in overall command. Each group only knows their specific role. 3 months into his attempted invasion, Crothax realized he was fighting an enemy he couldn't understand. Every time his forces attacked a human position, they faced coordinated resistance from groups that supposedly didn't communicate with each other. Sir, Blackster reported during their morning briefing, we have a new problem. What now? The humans have established cultural exchange programs on 17 of our border worlds. Crothax felt his red armor heating up with rage. Cultural exchange programs? During a war? They claim they're not at war, sir. They say the Korean Space Collective, which we declared war on, is a civilian organization with no authority to fight back. Then who are we fighting? According to the humans, no one. They say the groups defending against our attacks are independent contractors hired by local defense cooperatives. On the border world of Crimson 7, teacher Lee Min-young was conducting a class for young Crimson citizens. Her subject was comparative government systems. In your traditional system, she explained to her eager students, one leader makes all decisions for everyone. But what if people could choose their leaders? What if different groups could cooperate instead of fighting? The young Crimsons asked many questions. Why did they need one supreme leader? Why couldn't different regions govern themselves? Why couldn't they trade freely with other worlds? These questions spread from world to world. Soon, Crimson citizens were asking their local governors uncomfortable questions about autonomy, cooperation, and self-determination. Sir, Officer Blackster reported with barely contained panic, we have rebellions on 43 border worlds. Rebellions? They've declared themselves autonomous Crimson republics and are seeking to join something called the Galactic Cooperation Network. War leader Crothax felt his world collapsing around him. He had launched this invasion to expand Crimson territory and demonstrate their military superiority. Instead, he was losing his own worlds to human ideas about cooperation and shared governance. Contact the human leadership, he commanded. I want to negotiate a ceasefire. Which human leadership, sir? Whoever's in charge of their military. That would be the Pan-Human Security Alliance, but they claim authority only for coordinating defense contractors. Then contact whoever makes their political decisions. The Terra Kepler Political Collective handles some political coordination, but most decisions are made by local authorities. Just contact someone who can speak for the humans. 6 hours later, Crothax found himself on a holographic call with Ambassador Kim Jun, Colonial Administrator Song Haijin, and Captain Park Ji-sung. None of them appeared to be military officers. War Leader Crothax, Ambassador Kim said politely, we understand you'd like to end hostilities. I want to negotiate surrender terms, Crothax replied. Whose surrender? Song Haijin asked. Your surrender. I'm offering you terms. The three humans looked at each other in confusion. War Leader, Captain Ji-sung said gently, we're not at war with you. The Korean Space Collective is a civilian organization. We can't surrender because we were never fighting. Then who was shooting at my ships? Defense contractors hired by local security cooperatives, Song Haijin replied. They were protecting civilian installations from unprovoked attacks. War Leader Crothax realized with growing horror that he had somehow lost a war that had never officially started. Half his territory wanted to join human cooperative networks, his military couldn't identify a clear enemy, and the humans insisted they weren't even fighting him. What do you want from us? He asked weakly. Nothing, Ambassador Kim replied. Though if you're interested in cooperative governance models, we'd be happy to share our experiences. Senior cartographer Veltan stood before the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Mapping Consortium. His crystal form flickered with steady blue light instead of the frustrated red that had marked his recent work. Around the great chamber, representatives from dozens of species waited to hear his final report on human territorial boundaries. Honored delegates, Veltan began, his voice ringing clearly through the hall, I have spent 2 full cycles attempting to map human space. Today I will explain why this task was impossible. In the human delegation section, Ambassador Kim Jun sat quietly. Beside him, Dr. Ryu Ina, humanities chief diplomatic theorist, watched the proceedings with interest. They had been invited to witness what many expected to be a formal complaint about human territorial chaos. The humans were not confused about borders, Veltan continued. They had moved beyond the need for them. A murmur ran through the assembly. Commander Steel 7, now calling himself Representative Steel 7 of the Metallic Cooperative Alliance, leaned forward in his mechanical chair. The Metallic Dominion recently completed its transformation into the Metallic Cooperative Alliance, Steel 7 announced. Our efficiency has increased by 82%. Resource distribution problems have been eliminated. Individual unit satisfaction is at record levels. From the Crystal Hegemony section, Speaker Ziwaxdich stood up. His crystalline form glowed with calm patterns. The Crystal Hegemony has become the Federated Crystal Republics. Our crystal cities now operate as autonomous regions within cooperative frameworks. Prosperity has increased by 37%. War leader Crothax, recently elected as coordinator Crothax of the reformed Crimson Federation, spoke reluctantly. The Crimson Supremacy has adopted representative governance models. Our border conflicts have ended. Our citizens report higher satisfaction with local autonomy. Veltan gestured to the massive holographic display that dominated the center of the chamber. For centuries, it had shown the galaxy's territorial boundaries as clear, bright lines separating different colored regions. This map has guided galactic politics for 800 cycles, Veltan said. It shows who owns what, where one species ends and another begins. But it also shows something else. He touched his control pad. The map zoomed in on the border regions between different species. Bright red zones marked areas of conflict. Weapons platforms. Military installations. Buffer zones. It shows fear, Veltan continued. Every line on this map represents distrust between species. Every border crossing is a potential battlefield. Every territorial boundary is a wall that prevents cooperation. Dr. Ryu Ina stood up when Veltan gestured toward the human delegation. Species throughout history have claimed territory because they feared scarcity, she said. If resources are limited, we must fight to control them. But humans learned something different. Cooperation creates abundance. She activated a data pad, and new statistics appeared on the holographic display. Trade volumes between cooperative human authorities. Resource sharing agreements. Joint research projects. The numbers were staggering. When groups work together, they produce more than they could alone, Dr. Ryu explained. When they share knowledge, everyone becomes smarter. When they combine resources, everyone becomes wealthier. Merchant Prince QXNR, whose outer territories had joined the Human Economic Cooperation Network, nodded grudgingly. The human trade model has generated more wealth in one cycle than our traditional tribute system produced in 10 cycles. Veltan touched his controls again. The traditional galactic map faded away, replaced by something entirely new. Instead of territorial boundaries, lines of light connected different worlds. Blue lines showed trade relationships. Green lines marked cultural exchanges. Yellow lines indicated cooperative governance agreements. Red lines displayed shared research initiatives. I propose replacing the traditional galactic map with the dynamic cooperation network display, Veltan announced. The old map showed walls. The new map shows bridges. The display was beautiful. Where the old map had shown empty space between hostile territories, the new map revealed a web of connections spanning the entire galaxy. Species that had never spoken to each other were now trading partners. Former enemies were sharing scientific discoveries. Ancient rivalries had become cooperative alliances. Ambassador Kim stood up. On behalf of humanity's 43 governmental cooperatives, we welcome all species to join the Galactic Cooperation Network. Engineer Park Sunwoo, monitoring from New Geneva Station, watched as applications flooded in from across the galaxy. Her communications board lit up with requests from hundreds of governmental entities. Controller So-young, she reported to Station Coordinator Lee So-young, We're receiving cooperation requests from 412 governmental entities across 51 star systems. So-Young smiled as she watched the transformation accelerate. Prepare the integration protocols. Send welcome packages to everyone who applied. Back in the Grand Assembly, Veltan made his final announcement. The Galactic Mapping Consortium officially retires the traditional territorial map. From this day forward, we will maintain the Dynamic Cooperation Network display as our primary navigation and political reference. The vote was unanimous. As delegates filed out of the chamber, many stopped to examine the new display more closely. They could see their own worlds connected to dozens of others through networks they had never noticed before. Trade routes, research partnerships, cultural exchange programs. The galaxy was already far more connected than the old territorial map had ever shown. Dr. Ryu in awe watched the crowd around the display. You know what this means? She said to Ambassador Kim. What? We've taught the galaxy humanity's greatest secret. True strength doesn't come from claiming territory. It comes from building connections that transcend any border ever drawn. The galaxy had learned to cross bridges instead of building walls. And in doing so, it had become something entirely new. Not a collection of competing empires, but a network of cooperative civilizations working together toward a shared future. The age of borders was over. The age of cooperation had begun.